Oops. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. It is Sarah at carnivore.yogi on Instagram. Today I have Nevada with me. Nevada has been a big part of my journey ever since day one. I remember signing up for my Instagram account to kind of fill my feed with inspiration. She was one of the first people that I followed. And she actually gave me a follow back and was like, girl, let me know how I can support you. And really has been just a friend of mine and like an inspiration through this whole journey. So I'm super honored to have her here today to talk about her story and her journey. So thank you, Nevada, for being on with me today.
Of course, it's my pleasure, and I love your YouTube. You've actually inspired me to get on YouTube myself, so that's a work in progress right now. So thank you.
Yes, I'm super excited. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your journey. I mean, there's so much to talk about, but how you got into carnivore, keto, your healing story, just start from the beginning.
Sure. So it's basically a series of accidental discoveries. What happened was my entire life, I had asthma and allergy symptoms. I was constantly feeling like my throat was swelling shut every time I would eat fruits and vegetables, which kind of led me to a higher carbohydrate diet because certain foods just irritated me. So I tended to eat a lot of processed food. Throughout that course, I developed PCOS. And as we all know, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it has a whole host of very unpleasant symptoms, cosmetic symptoms, symptoms of insulin resistance, diabetes, metabolic problems, you name it, weight gain. I had it all. So I decided in my 20s that I just had to take control of my health. And I thought the solution to that would be to just go to nursing school and study biochemistry. I had a dual degree, biochemistry and nursing, and then go on from there to pharmacy school in an attempt to cure myself and fix my own situation. Long story short, when I graduated pharmacy school in 2010, after implementing everything I was learning in school, I graduated with a pre-diabetes diagnosis and at 220 plus pounds. And I'm only 5'4", so that was a lot of weight to be carrying around. I was fat, sick, and exhausted, and I was starting to feel very depressed. And I'm like, why can't I fix myself? I spent all this time in school because I wanted to help other people. I wanted to help myself. Yeah, I was failing. And I was very insecure that I thought, oh, my patients are going to look at me, and here I am giving them advice and I can't even fix my own situation. So I decided, that's it. I'm going to take drastic measures. So I hired a personal trainer, which is what a lot of people end up doing.
Yeah.
Sarah. They invest in that personal trainer thinking, okay, it must be something that I'm doing. I'm not working out the right way. So I went, invested in this personal trainer. I started a paleo diet based off the clean eating movement that I read in Oxygen magazine. So I had a container system in my refrigerator all the time. I was doing meal prep, constantly eating every 2 hours, like I was being told I had to do in the fitness magazines.
Yeah.
Going, working out 2 hours a day, sometimes 2-a-day workouts. And I was able to lose around 50 pounds as I gradually decreased some of my carbs. But I had to make sure that I was cooking my vegetables so I wouldn't feel like my throat was swelling shut or developing hives or swollen lips from the food I was eating. So it was trying to find that fine balance. During that time, I had an illness. I was diagnosed with mono, which they initially thought was meningitis. So I had to have a spinal tap to rule this out because I just became so sick one day. I had a really high fever, really bad headache. I actually went to the emergency room, which is one of the only times I've ever been in an emergency room. Wow. They did a spinal tap and I was diagnosed with mono. It wasn't meningitis, thank goodness, but it was in my lumbar spine, my L5S1. And then I continued training after that. And I just developed chronic back pain after that situation. From the spinal tap, I had a CSF leak that required a blood patch. So something happened in a combination of my training, my diet, and this procedure that precipitated a chronic back pain that went on for 2 years. I was in physical therapy trying to fix it. I was still continuing to try to lose weight. My diet was all over the place in the paleo world, trying to figure out what I was doing wrong. I was able to maintain the 50-pound weight loss, but it was hard. And one day I just happened to be at work and I developed sciatica down my leg, which was a new symptom. And I started having trouble going to the bathroom. So I thought, oh, great. Now I have sciatica. What do I have going on now? Do I have a kidney stone? Like, how could this possibly get any worse? So I went home that night thinking I'll make an appointment with my doctor. And I ended up waking up the following morning paralyzed from the waist down. I could not move my legs efficiently. My feet were not moving up and down. I was incontinent of my bladder. And at this point, I realized I was in an emergency situation that required evaluation at a high-level medical center. So rather than call an ambulance that would have taken me to a community hospital that would have delayed figuring out what was going on with me because I knew they didn't have the capability to diagnose what was happening quickly, I had a friend drive me to the nearest high-level medical center, which was about 25 minutes away, where I was quickly triaged in the emergency room. They realized something was wrong with my spinal cord. I had an emergency MRI, and that's how they discovered I had a massive central disc herniation at my L5-S1. So from there, I was rushed to another higher level medical center that had emergency neurosurgery. And I was brought into surgery so fast, my head was spinning to decompress my the lower portion of my spinal cord, the Cauda Equina, to be able to save it so that I would not be permanently paralyzed.
Wow.
Yes. That's very scary.
Yeah.
A lot of anxiety there.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So from there, I was hospitalized for about a week. I was able to regain bladder control. And then my left leg came back. My right leg was severely affected. I was extremely weak, combination of motor and sensory. I had full foot drop. Oof. So I was able to, by the grace of God, get discharged with home services, which was my goal versus going to a rehab, because I just wanted to recover in my own home. I felt like I would be able to recover better, and I felt I would have the help and support that I would need to be able to do that. So I had a physical therapist come to my home. I had an aide that helped me with being able to shower until I could build my strength up and progress through the wheelchair, the walker, the cane, and then get into outpatient physical therapy where I had more gait training and correction of the muscle imbalances.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it was a huge disruption in your life, and it sounds like an extreme amount of trauma to your body and just you as a person. What led you to the diet in particular? What kind of gave you the inclination that might be something that could help with the healing process?
So that was an accidental discovery as well, because when something like this happens to your body, two things happen. Number one, you're exhausted, so you just want to sleep all the time.
Yes.
And the other thing is you're just not hungry. So I wasn't eating, and I had accidentally put myself into ketosis.
Right.
So through accidental fasting, just because I wasn't hungry, and sleeping more, which was actually restorative sleep because I was sleeping so deep. My body just needed it to recover. I just gave into it. When I finally decided I was going to Google my condition after my neurosurgeon said, stay off of Google.
Yeah.
So I Googled it, Sarah, and I completely flipped out. I had the worst day.
Yeah.
Probably one of the worst days of my life because I didn't see a lot of positivity or people recovering. So I called my friend and I'm like, oh my goodness, my life is over. I was having so much anxiety. And as a person that doesn't suffer from anxiety and depression on a normal basis, this was extremely uncomfortable for me. So my anxiety was giving me anxiety.
Oh, wow.
So I was all, revved up. I'm just like, oh, what am I going to do? I was panicking. And she said to me, get yourself on YouTube and find people that beat the odds and just watch their videos and encourage yourself and calm yourself down.
I love it.
So when I did that, is how I accidentally discovered the ketogenic diet. I discovered Sean Stevenson, who's the host of the Model Health Show on iTunes. And he was talking about how he cured himself from degenerative disc and spine disease. So, of course, I found every podcast he was on. I created an Instagram account so I could reach out to him, which was the whole reason I got on Instagram.
Wow.
To ask him, what can I do? So he talked about creating a protocol, creating a healing protocol, listening to your body. It will tell you what to do. So I started really researching nerve injury, and I came across the ketogenic diet, that it was neuro and motor protective. So I went on to find somebody. I found Vanessa Spina, who taught me how to set up a well-formulated ketogenic diet, because I wasn't doing this for weight loss. I was doing this to do everything I could to save my Cauda Equina and get my nerves regenerating and to recover from this catastrophic event that happened in my lumbar spinal cord. So I just started implementing the ketogenic diet like my life depended on it. I was measuring everything. I was making sure I was checking my blood, that I was at the therapeutic levels of ketosis. Everything revolved around doing this correctly. And throughout that, any cravings I had for foods just completely went away. I had no desire to cheat. It was non-negotiable. I did my physical therapy exercises every day. I went to bed every day, got 8 to 10 hours of sleep, restorative sleep, prepared my meals. I tried to keep them as simple as possible. And throughout the course of doing the keto diet, I felt really good. I was able to manage my spasticity and nerve pain that I was having in especially my right leg. And I noticed through accidental discovery that I felt better on the days that were the lowest carb or zero carb, that just had meat and animal fat. So when I did cheat on this, I was cheating with more protein and more fat. I remember one day I ate 2 ribeyes and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be out of ketosis. And I checked and I was still in ketosis and I felt satisfied. And I kind of was a closet carnivore for a time, because I'm just so conditioned I have to eat a vegetable. I'm like, oh, I can't tell anyone I'm not eating vegetables. So then I noticed I felt better, and I discovered a lecture that Georgia Ede gave on nightshades, and I realized, okay, these are surely not making me feel well, because every time I would eat them, I would get rashes. I would feel like my throat was closing up. My back would get stiff. And I noticed through my research that nightshades, for example, have glycoalkaloids, so they can interfere with cholinesterase, which interferes with acetylcholine, which can interfere with nerve transmission, especially in the motor. It's a similar mechanism to nerve gas. I'm not saying tomatoes are nerve gas, but it's a similar mechanism. So when I started understanding some of these mechanisms and how the food and vegetables could impact me, and then just a few months ago, finally getting a diagnosis of the oral allergy syndrome and seeing, okay, I'm having a combination of allergy and also some of these foods may not be serving me in my neurologic recovery, that I just started gradually phasing things out. And it was a gradual process. And then when I discovered oxalates and the role of oxalates in nerves, there's some studies that they've been found in spinal discs.
Oh, wow.
We know that they can destabilize the connective tissue. They could destabilize the structures around the spine. Sally Norton is a wealth of information on this.
Yes.
If you read her paper that she wrote and just go to the reference section and start reading every paper in that reference section, it's just going to blow your mind. I was drawn to the ones regarding the neural system, because we know that these do go into the spinal cord and into the nerves and can impact them. So as I started reading this, I started phasing out gradually these foods and increasing my fat and protein. And when I found the Paleo Medicina group and looked at their protocol, and especially Dr. Clemens, who is one of the most prolific researchers in neuroscience in the world, and started reading her papers, I decided, okay, I'm going to embrace just doing meat and animal fat with confidence. I know I'm getting everything that I need as in terms of my micronutrients and vitamins. I feel good. This is going to solve my allergy problem. This is going to solve my PCOS problem. I may lose weight, and it may optimize and accelerate my neurologic recovery. So when I started doing and instituting the carnivore diet a year into my recovery, and I'm now in my 3rd year of the carnivore diet,
Wow.
I noticed I felt stronger. I had better mental clarity. My body composition was changing. My motor and sensory in my leg resolved itself over 2 years, and my foot drop completely resolved. I have everything back but 2 toes right now.
Wow.
I'm in the best health of my life. I'm on no medications, and I just feel really good. Every day I wake up refreshed, and I'm like, thank you. I'm just so grateful for what this nutrition approach has offered me. And it was an option that I discovered accidentally. So I share my story in the hopes that providers can learn from it, and that other patients can have a model for something that worked. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody, but it worked for me. And I hope through putting myself out there, it will add value to people in similar circumstances.
Yeah, and you have. I mean, just watching you and watching the impact that you've had in this community has been absolutely amazing to witness. And you guys, you and Chris both, and Chris, if you guys don't know, and Nevada have the MindBody Breakthroughs podcast, which has been out for a while now, which is another amazing resource. And so I love how, a big part of your story that I've heard you say with other people is this diet, and this is kind of like a non-negotiable, like you didn't cheat, and because when we cheat, we're assuming we're trying to get ahead. And you knew instinctively this is not going to help me. So you had that as a solid thing. Some of the other stuff that you did that I think is so important, and that you and Chris talk about quite a bit in MindBody Breakthroughs, is the mindset and the vision boarding, and curating your social media feed, and just keeping that positivity. Because I mean, when you've been in the dark depths, like you can't walk, you're in so much pain and so much misery, I think some people get into that place, and it allows them to slip into chronic depression, which will make the condition worse. So share some of your tips about how you continue to wake up every day and keep that positive mindset. I think that's so powerful for people to hear.
Yes, because a lot of people with Cauda Equina Syndrome, and I actually just got a message the other day from a lady that was diagnosed 11 weeks ago, who started a ketogenic diet, and she didn't realize that recovery was going to be possible for her. She just happened to chance upon my story, and this is why I'm so happy that this benefited somebody. And she started the ketogenic diet, and she's now able to walk on crutches. She has some of her hip mobility back, and she has regained her bladder control, which is huge. This is a huge one. This is 11 weeks. So recovery is possible in a peripheral nerve injury. They are capable of regeneration, depending on what is still intact of the nerve. And there's 2 classifications, Seddon and Sunderland, that you can actually look at. So having that mindset that recovery is possible is huge going into this. And I'm not saying that every day was roses during my recovery. There was a lot of tears shed. There was a lot of uncertainty. But one of the things I did was, and I always give this man as a resource, because I think he is the best in the space regarding implementing the mindset science to recovery. Because we know in science that your mind is extremely powerful in impacting your health and your healing. And I became very interested in spontaneous healing during my recovery, because how do these people spontaneously heal from stage 4 cancers, from spinal cord injuries, from MS that were not able to walk? How is this possible? How are they doing this? And one of the people that I found was Dr. Joe Dispenza. He had a spinal cord injury himself. He rebuilt his spinal cord and his vertebrae in his mind, did not have surgery, and was walking after, I believe it was 12 weeks of a catastrophic accident. And he wrote a book about it called You Are the Placebo and Then Becoming Supernatural, which is the blueprint for how this happens. So what happened to me was, I would say the first 2 weeks I was home, my physical therapist said, why don't you make a vision board of your recovery and what you want your year to look like and what you want your life to look like, so you have a vision in front of you. So I had all these magazines that people had brought over, all these celebrity magazines to keep my mind off of everything.
Yeah.
So I had a cork board, I had some tacks. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a vision board. So I made a vision board of what I wanted my life to be. I had a goal to run a 5K after my first year. And this was one of the goals that kept me going the entire year, was to be able to do this. And I just put it right on my refrigerator, right where I could see everything. Every day I spent in meditation, rebuilding my Cauda Equina, similar to the way Joe Dispenza did using his techniques. I used a mirror box that I had learned in physical therapy, where I took a mirror and I reflected back the working limb, which is my left leg, and became almost trance-like watching this in the mirror, rewiring my brain to think that this was my right foot moving up and down, because at the time I couldn't move my foot. So I would spend hours doing this. I would focus on what I was grateful for, what was working. When I would have states of anxiety where I didn't know what was going to happen in my future, I would go in my room, I would put on a meditative sound or music or guided meditation and calm my mind down, and I would be visualizing my future and what I wanted my life to be: running, walking on the beach, enjoying time with my friends, being able to ride a bicycle, all these things that you would take for granted. And it would be as if I was experiencing it, that I would forget my current state. And the key when you're doing something like this is you have to attach it to an elevated emotion, because that ups your vibration, and it ups when you're manifesting something for it to come to you in excited fashion. So, for example, let's say you're having a down day and you're having trouble feeling joy. So what's the next elevated emotion that you may be able to feel? And you kind of just go up that ladder to feel the most elevated emotion you could feel that day. And Esther and Jerry Hicks actually have an emotion ladder.
Oh, I love it.
And you can view that. I should post that on my Instagram, and you can view it. So let's say you're feeling sad, or you're feeling melancholy, and you can feel an emotion of, just pieces of happiness about something, even if for a second you've elevated your emotion. So I would think of things that made me happy, that made me joy, or I would go and participate in an activity that which happened to be reading. So being in the state, I had a chance to read a lot. So I would go and I would just feel happy being able to do that. So I would get myself into the best emotion that I could. It may not have been like joy or just, pure bliss, but I was at an emotion that was better than the lower vibe emotions.
Yes.
So that's what I did for myself. And I just kept building on that every single day. And I made this a functional part of my daily routine. So I kept things simple. Before this happened, I had a ton of clutter. So I discovered the Minimalist. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this time to declutter my home. So I ended up donating 1,500 books to my library. I had all these books. I had all this crap I wasn't even using. I was just dusting it. Yeah. So got rid of all of it. I got it down to the basics, to the point where I could clean my home in 20 minutes, dusting and vacuuming. I had just the functional essentials of what I needed. I did that with my diet, did that with my home, did that with my wardrobe, made everything so simple for myself that it decreased the stress in my life. Because when this first happened, I didn't have the endurance to be cleaning my home.
Right.
And when you're sitting in your home, homebound, and you're looking at all your stuff, it's easy to start to feel suffocated, and you really start reflecting on your life. Yeah. So through minimalism, I was able to just get out there and get a life of experience versus, sitting in all my stuff. Yeah. The other thing is a lot of people that do spontaneous healing, they isolate themselves. They may go away on a tropical vacation and just get away from everyone and disconnect. I couldn't go on a tropical vacation, but I disconnected. I had my small circle around me, and I just disconnected from anything that was negative or anything that made me feel bad. I did it more out of survival for my own mental state when I was recovering from this.
Yes.
But it really makes you think of your environment and
Yes.
how things are impacting you, especially when you're going through something like that. So these are the changes that I made during my recovery that made a huge, huge difference.
Wow. And, and I love, again, like what you guys are doing now. Like you've had this recovery and it didn't stop there, because a lot of people, you have a recovery, you move on with your life, but you have really changed your life tremendously. You continue to work in service to others of your job as a pharmacist during the day, but then in all of your spare time, which I'm sure when you're working a full-time job, you don't have a ton of it, but I see you really spending your spare time uplifting, encouraging, and trying to help others. And that is so beautiful to me. That is kind of what you've made your life's work. How do you continue to do that on a day-to-day basis? Do you ever get exhausted, or what keeps you inspired to continue to share your story and help others?
So this experience by far has made me a better person, and it's made me a better healthcare provider, because I never knew chronic pain or a catastrophic health event until this. And people are struggling with that every day. I would, prior to this, I would just be filling people's prescriptions and, trying to do the best I could, get them resources. But I never truly understood until it happened to me. And that's one of the biggest mistakes you can ever make in life, is to think it can't happen to me.
Mm,
So this made me a better provider. And I really, through educating myself and looking at the science and getting current, because the guidelines that we have right now, we have some really good guidelines, but some of the guidelines are outdated. They need to be
mm,
updated with the current science, which we're seeing with the food guidelines, which is occurring right now. So there's a lot of changes to be made. There's a lot that still needs to be researched. But what I did was I started empowering myself with current knowledge so I could start sharing this with people that
mm.
truly needed it. Because the people that are reaching out to me now are desperate. They've heard from their doctor, "I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do for you." And when you're hearing that from your doctor, you think your life is over, because if
Yeah,
they don't know what to do, how are you supposed to know what to do? And
right.
one of the things that I love letting people know is you have options. You have
Yes.
options. You may not have a medical option, but you have a nutritional option that you can try. You have a mindset option that you can try.
Mm,
All hope is not lost.
wow.
There's never not a situation where there's not hope that things can turn around. And I always tell people, always keep your hope, always empower yourself. And working as a provider, it can get draining and exhausting,
Yes.
because you're giving so much of yourself, and you're taking on so much of people's negativity or their illness. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that have the poverty mindset.
Yes.
So it's extremely hard being around this. And one of the ways that I started protecting my energy is I just started, when someone would come to me with a situation. I'm a fixer. I'm a natural fixer. I want to
Yes.
solve their problem. So I'll take on their problem, and I'm like, oh, let's try this. Let's try this. Let's see if this works. And I take it on to the point where it drains me,
Yeah.
as if it's like, okay, I've taken on their problem, because
Yeah.
that's the natural fixer in me. So what I've done now is, yes, I can provide you resources, and I can wish you well to find a solution. But I know that your life is not my responsibility. Your life
Right.
is your responsibility. Everyone is 100% responsible for their life and for
Yeah.
taking steps to turn it around. I can give you information and resources, but I can't do the work for you. As much as I would love to be able to do this for you and make sure you're healed and you get the
Yeah.
best result, I can't do this work for you. So realizing that was a huge shift in my mindset,
Yeah.
to be able to protect my energy in working, number one, with the general public, but also all of the messages that I've gotten. There was one point I had 1,000 messages in my
Wow.
Instagram, and I felt bad because I just couldn't answer all of them. It was,
Yeah.
and I was reading, the ones I was reading, the stories of stage 4 disease, people with spinal cord injury. My heart was just absolutely breaking. So then
Yeah.
I decided, well, I can use my platform to share the science and the resources and that I'm learning about, because I'm not an expert. I don't consider myself an expert. I view myself as an empowered patient, just like everybody else.
Wow.
But I don't know everything. So
Yeah.
how can I, empower people? I can empower them with people that do know something about a certain
Yes.
topic, that are an expert in that topic, that have studied it or have recovered from it, and
Yeah.
share their story. And that increases my reach and my impact, and helps other people and helps connect people with people. So I take great pride in that on my platforms.
Wow. And you do a wonderful job. I mean, it's always educational. It's always positive. I always get something out of your posts, even if it's not even something that I'm working with, a difficulty I'm working with. It's like there's always something in there for everyone. So you do a really beautiful job of that. So I know
Thank
all of
you.
us appreciate that. Yeah. To jump back into the food part, because I know a lot of people are watching because they're interested in food. Walk us through a typical day of eating for you. What does that look like?
So one of the things I do that I've been doing intuitively, which has also helped not having any loose skin, because I've lost a total of 92 pounds.
Ooh.
And I tend to every other day fast, because I eat such a huge meal, and my
Mm,
meal is steak and eggs. That's my staple. I just love it.
yeah,
I could eat 2 ribeyes and like 4 eggs in one sitting,
yeah,
and just, be fueled for 2 days,
yeah.
and, just feel like I could take on the world. So intuitively, with my fasting schedule, and I don't even know if I should call it fasting, it's just like intuitive eating.
That's what you're doing.
I tend to be on an every other day schedule, or some days I'll have 2 meals. It all depends. I eat to hunger and to satiety, to my body's cues. So steak and eggs are my staple. I like to add in salmon roe, because I want to make sure I'm getting my omegas, and that they're in the most bioavailable form of the salmon roe. I eat wild salmon. I like animal fat, so I end up getting suet and the trimmings from my butcher. My staple is mostly ribeyes, but when they're not my budget, I do ground beef
Hmm.
with the animal fat. I do eggs and bacon. Recently, I've tried adding in some foods, and the foods that I have added in that are plant material that do not seem to bother me is a small avocado or
Hmm.
cabbage. So I tend to do pretty good with like the cabbage, the Brussels sprouts, and the avocado. The other foods that I have tried to add in, my lips immediately started feeling itchy, and my throat started
Wow.
feeling scratchy. So it's not something I add in all the time. I will tell your viewers I did cheat with a piece of chocolate cake over my birthday. And after not having chocolate and sugar for 2 years, within an hour, I was on the floor in my
Oh,
apartment feeling like I was having a massive heart attack.
oh
I
no.
was in arrhythmia. I was sweating.
Oh my
I
gosh.
was just like, oh my goodness, what is happening right now? And then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, it has to be the oxalates in the chocolate.
Right.
it's just, so it's just, so that's not something that I'll probably cheat with again, because it
Yeah.
scared me so bad.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't cheat. I have occasional glass of red wine if I'm out for dinner and I feel like having a glass of wine with my steak. But pretty much that's what I eat. I keep it so, so simple. I
Yeah.
just started eating oysters because they have a
I
similar nutrient
love
profile
oysters.
to liver. I'm
Yes.
not a fan of liver. I just can't get
Me
into
either.
it. I've tried making the pates. I tried doing the frozen.
Yep.
I,
Same
I
here.
have tried. It's just not my thing. And,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I feel
Yeah.
like I can get what's in liver through oysters and by other means. So that's pretty much my day. I drink water. I drink half a gallon to a gallon of water a day. I salt my food to taste. What else? That's pretty much it. I just keep it extremely simple.
Yeah. And I mean, it sounds like it's working really well for you. And probably the fasting is helping you to stay in that deep level of ketosis to continue the nerve regeneration and your body continuing to be on this healing path.
Yes,
Um,
because after eating a large meal, I'm just not hungry. So I'm
yeah.
not going to force myself to eat if
Yeah.
I'm just not hungry. So usually my hunger returns in about a day.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about, because I know you have done this recovery with the spinal cord injury. How is your exercise? How does that look? Do you go to the gym? Do you work out, like lift weights? What kind of routine do you do there?
Every single day. So I love fasted cardio in the morning. This helps me maintain my weight. It helps me with my mind. I'll put on a podcast or I'll just put on
Mhm.
some music I've been wanting to listen to. And I do that for about 40 minutes. If I have a day off, I like to split my routine and lift in the afternoon. Um,
Mhm.
so I'll go lift in the afternoon. I have a gym right in my apartment complex, so I'll just go lift. I do a lot of functional training, and the protocol that I mostly follow is Dr. Stuart McGill. He is
Okay.
extremely the best resource that I can recommend for fixing your back. He wrote a book for the general population called Back Mechanic. He also wrote Lower Back Disorders. He is the king of functional training, where all those certificates come from. It comes from his science and his programs. So when I train functionally, I always train with my core engaged, with the idea of core and glute activation, because I always want to create that fusion around my lumbar spine. And how do you do that? Strong core, strong glutes. So I do weightlifting. I do enjoy weightlifting, but I always have my stances where my back is in neutral. One thing I do not do is deadlift. I don't feel that that's safe for me. I don't even want to take a chance. There's
Yeah.
other ways to train those muscles without having to deadlift. So I engage in feel good movement. If I'm in a stance and it does not feel good for me, it does not feel good for my back, or I feel like I could lose control and hurt my back, I don't engage in that exercise. I find something different
Wow.
for that. I've recently started experimenting with yoga
Yeah.
to help increase my flexibility. It's really challenging,
Yeah.
and I really like it. I'm in a very beginner class that I go to once a week, and I practice at home. I have noticed some improvement in my flexibility.
Oh,
So
good.
this is a huge challenge for me. It's something I've never done before, so I'm just embracing being a beginner.
I love it. I love it. And that's so important to just continue to keep it fresh and try new things. And what a gift that you're healed enough so that you can continue to search out and try new things with your body. I mean, it's just amazing and just a testament to your lifestyle and what you've done to really help to continue to encourage healing in your body. Um,
Exactly. And it's
yeah.
never too late, whether in your 40s or 50s. Just
Yes.
look at Ernestine Shepherd. She's in her 80s now. She did not start weightlifting until she was in her 50s. And
Wow.
if you look at her now, just go Google her right now, everyone that's listening, you will be truly inspired. It's never too late to start.
Amazing. It's amazing. So tell everyone kind of what you're up to now, like present day. We've kind of talked about your routines and everything. What are you up to now with the community and stuff that you're putting out there? Where can people find you?
Yes. So right now, Chris and I are working on our network, the MindBody Breakthroughs Network, and this is a forum where we help providers and professionals in healthcare with content creation for social media, creating online classes, and just creating that e-commerce component of their business, because a lot of them have no idea about social media, or
Ah,
they reach out to us. How can we grow? How can we get our message out there? So we offer that services, marketing, especially social media marketing. I love it. It's a passion of mine. So I love helping people create content and watching them grow on social and get their first 10,000 followers. I cheer them so hard, because then you get the advanced account features. So you can share your blogs, you can share your
yes.
podcasts and all of that. So Chris and I also have a podcast, our MindBody Breakthroughs podcast. We have a lot of amazing guests coming up for season 2. We have a whole health approach. So we'll have people from carnivore, keto, business, just different genres of healthcare. different genres of mindset. So you can see all the options available to you for your toolkit that you can use in your healing. I also have the Paleo Pharmacist, where I just started my blog. I just set up my YouTube. So I'll be starting with that. Thank you for inspiring me to do
Can't
that.
wait.
And then I'll also this year volunteering with Dr. Chris Palmer. I'm on his volunteer team. So I look forward to helping him expand on his message regarding metabolic options and low carb options and mental health. I think that's really, really important, that research is out there and that the information is out there for the people. So that's kind of what I have going on right now.
It's a lot. So self-care and continuing to like put that oxygen mask on yourself is key, because you're really serving so many people in so many different facets. So it's just amazing that you're able to do all of that, and coming from where you were, that's what's so amazing about this whole story. And I guess if you could talk to somebody who is maybe like down and out with their health, and maybe in that place of feeling hopeless or just distraught, and maybe they've had that conversation with the doctor and said there's nothing we can do, what would you say to that person who might be watching, who might be trying to get inspiration to get started?
What I did and what I would tell somebody is go on YouTube and find people that beat the odds. Find people that beat the odds and Google your condition, because chances are you're going to find somebody that beat the odds in your condition. I actually found a man my first year in Australia through a blog that was on page 25 in Google search.
Wow.
And I emailed him and he emailed me back, and that's how I found out about Dr. Stuart McGill. So always search for people that beat the odds. And it may not be your condition, but there may be information from other conditions that you can extrapolate into yours. And when you've been told that there's nothing more they can do, then you have nothing to lose by starting to apply science that you're reading and see if it's something that can help you. One thing I do caution people doing a ketogenic diet is if you're on a lot of medications, you do have to work with your doctor to be safely managed, because when you start a ketogenic diet, your chemistry is changing. So if you have a mental health issue, some of that could worsen. So you definitely want to be, under the care of a doctor that can manage your meds, help you, get through that transition period. Also, heart and blood pressure medications, you can have a drop in blood pressure. Diabetes, you can have a drop in sugar. So you definitely have to be medically managed. So it's really important that, you let your doctor know that you are doing this so that they can help you with that. So, definitely want people to be safe. The biggest thing, just, find people that are beating the odds, find people that have the result that you're looking for, and learn from those people. There's enough abundance in the universe, and I would say 90% of people on earth understand that, and they're happy to share what they did or their strategy, or direct you into resources that can help you in your journey.
Wow, that's such great advice. I mean, I think everyone can get something from that, and can apply that in their life, even if they're not in a struggling place. That, especially keeping that abundance mindset, that. And I'm a big fan of Wayne Dyer, and one thing he always says is like, what you look for is going to multiply, and if you look at the world and say people are good and they're helpful and there's abundance, then that's going to show up for you, And I think that people have to remember that. If we look at the world and say it's hopeless and it's bad and there's nothing but bad people, that's going to continue to come into your field of awareness, because it's, it's like buying a red car and now all you see is red cars on the road. It's the same principle.
Exactly. And one of the things that Sean Stevenson said, I believe, when he was being interviewed on impact theory, he said the number one thing and the very best thing that you can do for yourself is get yourself around healthy people.
Yes.
And that's true. So that's why with Cauda Equina Syndrome, there's a lot of support groups. I found being in the support groups extremely depressing, because nobody was going for recovery. There was only a handful trying to talk about recovery, and it was just it was really discouraging for me. So I decided to leave that conversation.
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't my healthiest, I did everything I could to be around healthy people,
Mm,
and to learn from them and learn from their strategies, and to apply. And it doesn't mean that, these people are bad. It's just
right.
they're so stuck in their story,
Yeah.
and and their how they're choosing to feel and see the
Yeah.
world is it doesn't have to be how you see the world.
Yeah.
One poverty mindset doesn't have to be your poverty mindset. So
Yeah.
it's very important to surround yourself with people that are like-minded,
Yes.
um, and that can help elevate you and lift you up, and that you can help lift them up as well.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And it's so important to keep that in your forefront, because we can get trapped so easily into negativity and
Mhm.
go into that vibration. And then then we feel like crap. And I don't want to feel bad. I don't know about you.
Right.
I've worked too hard to feel bad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to link everything below this, so people can get in touch with you, find your podcast, find your Instagram, your website, blog, YouTube, everything. Um, any other thoughts that you have that you'd want to put out there for somebody who might be watching this at all, or any other ways they can get in touch with you?
Yep. So the best way to get in touch with me is actually there's a little email link on my Instagram, or
Mm.
just the email on my website that I check every day. It's harder for me with all the social media messages,
Oh yes.
to keep up with that. And if you have requests for content or anything like that, just let me know. But the biggest thing is just empower yourself, reach out and connect with other people. Don't isolate yourself from people that can help you. Like,
Mhm.
if you're going to isolate yourself from anything, isolate yourself from the negativity, but don't
Yes.
isolate yourself from human connection,
I
because
love it.
there's a lot of good in the world, and there's a lot of good people in the world, and it's important to see that.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. I know this is going to be a positive spot in people's day and hopefully a source of inspiration. And again, I'm going to link everything below this video. So if people want to reach out to you, get in touch with you, or even work with you, that's something they can do. But yeah, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for everything you do. You're such an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.